Welcome back, everyone, to another session of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Dixie Wescott. Dixie is a certified athletic administrator. She's the former athletic director at Lone Jack High School, and she's currently the online program manager for William Woods University Athletic Master's Degree Program. Dixie, welcome to the Educational AD.
Thank you, Jake. I'm very happy to be here and be able to visit with you.
Well, full disclosure, a long time ago, back in the 90s, Dixie and I, coached together at Missouri Valley College. We had a great time. I think we did pretty good there, but, glad to have you on the program today.
Thank you.
Well, we always like to let our guests have a chance to get to know you. So tell us your story, where you grew up, where you went to college, and maybe how you got that first job in athletics.
Gotcha. Well, I am from the Kansas City area originally, and actually after many years moved back to the area. I grew up in Independence, Missouri, went to Truman High School. From there, I became a Bearcat at Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville, played volleyball there, and was on the track team all 5 years of my program. Getting a degree in PE and getting a degree in math, they just don't overlap in any way. And so it took that 5th year to get that degree. I then accepted my first position as a high school math teacher, head volleyball, assistant basketball, assistant track in 1985 at Parsons High School, which is in Southeast Kansas. And then as the years progressed during my 5 years there, I thought I wanted to coach collegiately, and I did. So I, after 5 years, went back to Northwest Missouri, was a graduate assistant in volleyball, got my master's in physical education and health, and then took the job at Missouri Valley as my first collegiate job.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you definitely had a lot of success there in both sports, volleyball and coaching our throwers on the track team. Well, how did all of that lead you to your next career in athletic administration?
Well, when I left Missouri Valley and went to Fort Hays State University in Hays, Kansas, and was a head volleyball coach there. While I was there, I actually got my certification in administration, and came back to after years at Fort Hays. I kept going, I'm ready to be in secondary education again. I enjoyed my stint as a collegiate coach, but was ready for that secondary side of things again. Moved back to the Kansas City area, in which coached a couple years again, and then I moved into my role at Lone Jack High School as an assistant principal and the athletic director. It's a smaller school district outside of Kansas City, and that's where I then had a lot of experience to move into that NIAAA role of working towards my certified athletic administrator certification process. And so lots of years competing, lots of years coaching, moved into that role then.
Well, talking about the NIAAA, I know that you're currently working on your CMAA project, which was actually started and implemented at a different high school. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So after leaving or after working at Lone Jack, I was ready to be in a larger school district once again. Moved into the North Kansas City School District, which has 4 high schools. We have about 20,000 students. Moved into an assistant principal role at Winnetonka High School, and implemented a project called Time for Tonka, which is a huge focus on student leadership, and bringing in our incoming freshmen and their parents to get a sense of security of meeting a lot of coaches, directors, and being able to speak with them. We also have a big club organization at Winnetonka. It's important to have students involved in anything extracurricular, whether it's clubs. If a student wants to start a club, we have to have a school sponsor, and then we're ready to implement it. We have a fishing club, we have a barbecue club. So it's about involvement, which is important to our students or in their educational growth. But then I changed it quite a lot to put more student leadership in the actual program. It's important to hear from students because it's the student's school, it's not the adult school. And so we want to show off our leadership with our kids as well too.
Sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing more about that.
Good.
Well, now you kind of left the public school setting. You use the R word, but you're still very active in athletic administration with William Woods University. Tell us a little bit about that.
So after 35 years, yes, I did retire, that big R word, this year. And I did turn in my paperwork before COVID hit our world, or at least in the Kansas City area. I turned my paperwork in February. But back in October, Jim Gagan, who was the program manager at William Woods University, was retiring at the end of the year. And so I applied for that position. And as of January 1st of 2020, I began my program manager role at William Woods University. I actually have been an adjunct for them for almost 15 years. I have adjunct classes that were for students working on their master's in administration and then their master's in athletic and activities administration. And so I've been a big part of that role for many, many years. After I received my specialist degree from them, I moved right into that adjunct role. And so I've been involved with the NIAAA because we use their resources, their LTC coursework, in a handful of the courses. And so when this opening came about, I was very intrigued by it and wanted to get involved even more. And so we have moved from a actual on-ground platform for this degree to strictly online. We're actually phasing out our last in-person cohort, have 5 classes left to get their degree, and then everything else is 100% online. So I've worked a lot with adapting this curriculum, and I worked with Cheryl Van Paris quite a lot at the NIAAA to be able to make sure things are working well and appropriately for our students. And so I've had a lot of experience with the NIAAA in that fashion, not just from getting the CAA, but then in the role of the online program manager.
No, the NIAAA has a number of partners to deliver the curriculum. Now, for the William Woods program, your students, do they get credit for the actual LTC courses so they can, sit for the CA exam, or is it just the materials that are covered and they still have to take the courses separately?
They actually get credit for the courses through the NIAAA. We were using many pieces of the material of the curriculum and about 10 of the LTC courses. However, we've condensed that where we're using everything more fully. And by using everything throughout that manual, our students are able to get some of the coursework, LTC credits for 501, 502, 504, and 506. However, we've implemented 503 now as well too, using that fully. So really starting in this year, students would get that 503 credit as well too. They haven't in the past, but now that we're using that manual fully, they're going to be able to do that. So that's an advantage for our students to get that certification piece. And they go through the NIAAA website, become a non-member, and then that's where they're purchasing their manuals from as well too. But I have a lot of Excel and Google Sheet work that I turn into Cheryl at this point until they've never purchased the manuals directly from the NIAAA, but that's a big piece that's happening in August. Instead of paying fees to William Woods, they're going to actually buy the manuals directly from the NIAAA, which I think is better for our students in the long run.
Oh, no, I agree. For the students who have gone through the program, what sort of feedback have you gotten from them about their experience?
The feedback I've gotten, and we've got a few area ADs that went through the program and former students of mine as well too. And they have always said that it has helped prepare them. It gave them a network, and that was, the students I had were on ground. So that gave them a huge networking piece as well too, other people to get to know. And I would always have some guest speakers of practicing ADs to come in because you can never build your network enough. So they've been pleased with the process, the learning that has taken place. However, just as any educator, nothing replaces the true learning experience until you're on that job, in that role. And I still think that's the best. But at least it's a developmental process and a learning piece for them.
Well, again, it sounds great. And hopefully, speaking of network, we'll be able to get you and maybe some of your students down to Tampa in December, when we have that national conference. So.
That would be great.
Hey, we've talked about, your career, and as an athletic administrator, you know the importance of leadership and mentorship. Who have been some of your mentors as a student, as a young coach, as a young administrator? Who do you look back on as having a big impact on your career, even to this day?
Well, several people, but to maybe narrow it down a little bit, definitely my parents have been a huge piece, and they still are. As far as growing up in the educational world, I had a coach in middle school and then in high school that she is still Coach Schuler to me. I have always respected her and learned from her, and she is not a first name person for me. When I got into the educational, actually teaching and coaching, my very first principal, George V. Tigner, I always remember that, was a very active administrator in the building, being present at activities and athletics, and I learned a lot from him. When I got into the role as a activities director, Dan Ogle, a longtime friend of mine, is a retired longtime athletic director at William Chrisman High School in the Independent School District, one of the first to, way back in the day, to get the CMAA, and which is why I pushed hard when I got into that role to get the CAA side of things. And I still learn from Danny and respect his opinion on many things. We still have a lot of interaction, probably more so on something I haven't mentioned, that from the officiating side. Danny was a big official in our area for football and basketball. Is heavy in the softball and baseball side of things now too. With myself being an official for 13 years, I still have a lot of contact with Danny, and we're on one of the Greater Kansas City Officials Association board together.
You know, you mentioned COVID earlier, and again, I know you're retired, you're not in the school setting anymore, but in Missouri, it seems like the state association has announced that, you know, they're coming back regular schedule, full speed. Here in Florida, our state association is not as, let's say, legislative as some states are. They're more advisory, although there is a big Zoom board meeting tonight about possibly delaying the start of fall sports. For you as an administrator at your schools, what were some of the things that you did this past spring with regard to COVID, and how do you see it maybe playing out across the state in Missouri under your state's guidelines?
Gotcha. Well, and you're right. I have not been as involved with some of the returning piece of things, but one thing that I think was very fortunate for the North Kansas City School District was the fact that we were already a one-to-one school. And so the impact that it had on students and the learning environment, obviously there's impact everywhere, but I think the transition was very helpful, that we were already a one-to-one school, and we had already used the platform Canvas for a lot of our work, and our teachers posted things there anyway when they were going to be gone, and kids could go right to that. So I think that transition helped. However, the thing that we've learned that I cannot stress enough is that we have to be patient and we have to give grace to people, because this was not asked for, but yet it is our world, and we are all learning in this scenario. And while we want all the answers, we as an administrative team back in March, you know, when we left on spring break, we didn't go back, and nobody planned on that. But yet we had to have a quick transition for our students. And so we had building plans, and we had plans through the district, but there were things that changed. We may get started, and then we hit that bump, that hiccup, and then we had to get back on track and adjust things with that. But the thing that I learned through all of that is that kids come to school, they need the mental side of it. They also need that security side of it. And we have kids that come to school because they're hungry, and they need their food. They need heat. They need air conditioning. They need to know that people love them. And that is one thing that I think we as adults need to remember, is that it's okay to tell a kid that you love them. And it may be the only time that they actually hear it. And so, you know, I'm all over the spectrum with this, but ultimately we need to have patience for adults, for our parents, for our staff members, for our kids, for everyone. And we're learning together through this process.
Absolutely. We always like to ask our ADs, what are some of the favorite parts of their daily job? I'm going to tweak that a little bit for you. What are some of the things that you're going to miss from the public school AD experience?
Wow. You know, I'm just going to miss that daily routine, whatever the routine was, because it was different every day, but just being in the halls with kids, having that interaction. because, you know, I always told kids, I said, I've come to school for 35 years. I keep learning something new every day. And to tell to be honest with a kid and just say, I don't know that. Can you help me with that? And it was usually about technology, and just that interaction with kids, and the interaction with the staff members. And you know, you become, as an administrator, you become a counselor as well too. And to just be able to listen and understand, or attempt to understand, people just want to be heard. And I enjoyed that time, that daily routine of being around a lot of people. It's going to change, obviously, but, you know, I guess I kind of had a piece with the COVID side of it, kind of going into my retirement differently. Never thought it would be like that. You know, I start my career with the Kansas City Royals winning a world championship. I end my career with the Kansas City Chiefs winning that championship. And so I've had everything in between. It's changed a lot, but Jake, I know I will miss that interaction. However, I'm hoping to keep up a lot of interaction just through the William Wood side of it, because it's learning from the students as well too, that I haven't in my courses, and then still being a very active official in the Kansas City area, serving on the MISHA board with that as well too, as a rules interpreter. I'm still going to have interactions, just differently.
Well, we've done quite a few of these interviews, and every single one, the athletic director has mentioned the interaction, the relationships with the kids. And, you know, that's what it's all about in our job. Well, this is just flowing through. I could stay on this talk for hours, but our final question is what we like to call the athletic director's toolbox. You know, you're a veteran AD, and you're getting ready to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. And I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 items are going to go in Dixie Wescott's athletic director toolbox?
In no particular order, but 3 things. Networking. I think it's very important to not be afraid to reach out to veteran ADs or administrators, just to learn from them. The networking piece will allow you to not have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Things are developed. How can you take them and use them in your building? So I just think that networking piece, you cannot do that enough. I've said it once earlier in this, I'm going to say it again, but patience. You have to be patient, and don't expect to have everything resolved all at once. It takes time, and be patient with people. And part of that is listening to them. The other thing that I really want to stress, and I didn't live these words at all for many, many years, but take time for you. The mental stress that you put on yourself a lot of times is overwhelming, and you have to, for your own mental state and your physical state, you have to take that time to take care of you. If you don't, you're going to have some issues. So please take time for you. Give yourself a break.
Very, very wise. Dixie, thanks for being on the podcast today. Again, great to see you again and talk with you. I know we're going to be talking more as your program with William Woods continues to develop. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Jake, thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I appreciate this wonderful opportunity to visit with you and to visit with whomever listens. Always hope that whatever I say, if somebody can take one thing from it and learn from it, then it's been a success. So Thank you again for allowing me this opportunity, Jake.
Oh, absolutely. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Come back next time for another edition of the Educational AD.